So then here you are, you're already, it sounds like you know, the story just sounds like everybody's dream that it's going to be a big launch, 15 countries, the movie deal in the bucket, and then all of a sudden the pandemic strikes, which,
Boom.
you know, right, has like very careful to point out that your book does not involve a virus, but
Yes, thank you.
involves a biological agent. So there is this kind of irony to it that the pandemic strikes and your launch is pushed back. So that must have been disappointing. I mean, Cameron, who's on this call somewhere, had the same thing happen with her. That her launch wasn't pushed back, but she had to do an online launch, and her actual physical launch is pushed back. But tell us about like what that experience was like for you. And I know that especially because the subject matter is kind of at the very least resonant with the pandemic, that's causing you some problems right now.
Yeah. So basically, the inciting incident for everything that happens in my book is a bioweapon that's developed, accidentally gets into the biome, shall we say. It's kind of the way I used to work in the Argonne National Labs, places like that, where we worried about nuclear fission products getting into the biome. And in this case, it's a piece of a little snippet of DNA that they're using as a bioweapon, and it gets into bacteria in the soil in a way that they never expected it would. And, you know, it's kind of, to me, it was a cautionary tale about pollution, about, you know, things that we shouldn't tinker with, that sort of thing. At the time I wrote it, I came up with it in like probably 2015, 2016 timeframe. It's not a virus, as you said, but it acts a lot like one. And so that's the inciting incident, is that we have to clear out everybody on Earth, basically. And it has to be something that you can't cure with a simple vaccine, that people don't develop immunity to. It's really, really freaking deadly. So then, as a result, we have just very few people who can survive, including these genetically engineered children who are meant to be brought up by robots. We have scientists who develop enough of some sort of antidote that they can take it, but not enough for everyone, kind of thing. So you have this kind of small, I've taken the whole world and kind of crunched it down into a very small cast of characters who's remaining at this point, or they don't know if there's anyone else remaining, kind of thing. So yeah, when I first, I had a bunch of friends who read the book, and also people I'd handed it out to review and such, and they're all like, oh wow, the release of your book is so timely to be coming out right now. And I had this sense of sheer dread, really. And it turns out my dread was, it was, you know, it was for a good reason, because I think, you know, all books right now, as Cameron can probably attest, are hitting a wall that's really hard to break through. And mine has this extra thing that when I look at reviews, they say, oh my gosh, I just could not read this now. I couldn't get through it. I couldn't even start, and they put it aside. So it's not timely. It's terrible. You know, we just kind of hope that, you know, I think what's going to have to happen, I'm going to some, you know, virtual book releases and things like that. I think we're going to have to really get into this, double down on virtual book releases, you know, run through bookstores, and et cetera. And everybody's adapting really quickly. People using bookshop.org more and more, people, you know, getting books shipped from their bookstore. I know Books Inc. here in the Bay Area is having free shipping, so you don't have to go through Amazon. Things like that. We're just going to have to get really adapt at this in a way that I had hoped not to have to do, really.
Are you working with your local bookstore so that I know that you're that they're taking pre-orders, but are you working with them so that you can actually get to sign the books?
So So we haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, I noticed on their website they're so snowed at this moment. So I was supposed to release at Books Inc. on May 5th, next Tuesday. They're so snowed over that they haven't even canceled it online yet. It's still listed as happening. So we haven't gotten there yet. So right now my book won't be released till August 25th at the earliest. That again is still a tentative date. And so when the time comes, I purchased just in the nick of time about 250 um, bookmarks, which I can sign, so that if I don't have to touch the book, I can just slip you the bookmark or something like this. I was thinking about all of this perhaps before my publisher even did. I was thinking about it. We shut down out here in California about a week before New York did, although they should have, but they didn't. But anyways, yeah, so we haven't even talked about it. It's just drum up pre-orders, drum up as many pre-orders as I can from as many different bookstores and Amazon and everything across the country as I can. Try to keep interest in the book alive by going on Zoom chats and podcasts and writing articles and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff so that people don't forget about it. Because what the publicity agent does is, way back in November, I got a review from Publishers Weekly, and Kirkus reviews came out in January, and Booklist came out in February, and it's all kind of this timed release up to the point of release of the book, and it's like, oh, here we go, oh no, we're not going.
Okay.
So then you have to restart the engine. And they, I think you asked me that, how did I like my publicity team and my marketing team at Penguin Random House, and I love them, and they're really pulling hard, pulling out all the stops, and I think they're kind of trying to figure out. They have like now virtual cons
Mm-hmm.
they're having, because they were the first to pull out of the big con that was going to happen in Javits Center.
Mm-hmm.
Which pretty much tanked the whole thing, and then within 2 weeks that was a hospital.
Right.
So they are battling on the front lines truly in the United States. I really feel for them. They're all working from home, obviously.
Yeah. Well, if you I think that I have the pre-order information for you, and I'll send that by email to everybody when we're done here. But just two quick thoughts before I open this up and everyone can ask their questions. One is that I had to sign remotely at one point, more international orders than because of any kind of hiccup like this. But book plates work really well, because then
Yeah.
they're actually in the book and it still feels, whereas a bookmark is detached. And then another one of our writers, launched a book. I think it was a March launch, and he couldn't, so it was canceled for that reason. And he worked with his local bookstore so that you could place the order through the bookstore would get the books to him, and he would sign and personalize them, and then
Yeah.
ship them. And if you can do that, I thought that was a great idea, because I kind of got to see how many orders got put in from that, and he got if he had been signing in a bookstore, that would still not have been that would have been a respectable amount of signed books from a store reading. So he didn't lose that much from that part of the launch. And I think,
Yeah, two points I wanted to make. One was that was the first idea of my publicist. She said, we're probably going to end up doing book plates, and they are actually going to provide those, so that'll be great. The other thing is that these virtual launches, you can get so many more people from so many different locales involved in them than you would. So, for example, in my local book Inc., they say they can fit 125 people in there. I kind of doubt it. That would be standing room only, and so the idea that you could have, potentially hundreds of people from all over the place. I have friends in Ohio and Michigan and New York, that could attend a book launch, then that's kind of heartening right there. You can get them to tune in.
Okay, well, we have 15 minutes. So who would like to ask the first question?
Nobody is raising their hand.
Oh, Lita, you have a question.
Yeah, so first, thank you so much for your story with all the drafts. I think that really hit home for me because I think that's probably more how I work. But I was talking about your beta readers, and you said you had 15. I'm wondering, how did you choose them, or you just like, various writers you knew, you just traded books? And if you did choose them, were you looking for like your target audience, or just people whose writing you respected? I guess, what's the process there?
Yeah, so some of them were like really avid readers who I had told about the book and they said, "Oh my gosh, I want to read that." And so it was like that. Others were people that I had categories. I said, "I want at least one person in the military to read this." Because I have a military person in the book, or I have at least one cell biologist, and I ended up with 2 cell biologists reading it. So sometimes I wanted an equal mix of men and women, equal mix of sci-fi fans and not sci-fi fans. So I did kind of choose people that way, and of those, some of them gave, like I said, such great feedback that I thought, oh, I really want to use that person again. And then others, it was just not very helpful. So I had to, you kind of winnow it down over time. But yeah, that's what I did.
And do you think 15 was a good number, or would you think that was, yeah, well, what would you, if you had again, how many would you have, I guess?
Well, the only reason I did 15 was because it was over such a long period of time, and I didn't want to keep hitting up the same people over and over again. So probably 15 over a period of like 4 years. Yeah. And also, something else came to mind about the beta readers. There's only one beta reader, I think. No, there's two beta readers that I had actually beta read for them too. So it was like a swap. Yeah. And I enjoyed both of their books. And I hope they both get, one was like a potboiler thriller, and one was another kind of a sci-fi, kind of an offbeat sci-fi thing.
Cool. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Cameron.
Can I just ask a follow-up question to that? So if you were saying specifically that you wanted like a military person to read it, or if like a very specific target audience that you're looking to beta read, what's the process in like trying to find that specific person that's willing to read for you?
So I'm very lucky that I have a huge church that I attend. I'm not, well, let's see. This is a United Church of Christ. This is like, we're very loosey-goosey, but but we have 800 members, and we have members from all walks of life. And I just was chatting with somebody over one of the dinners, and he said, he talked about his experience in Vietnam and being a communications expert. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the guy I need. So it was like that. It would be somebody I knew. And likewise, when I wrote about New Orleans, my sister-in-law has a best friend who lives in New Orleans. My daughter has a best friend who lives in New Orleans. I was always a friend of a friend. It was never like me cold calling some stranger to do a beta read. I may do that in the future because now my name might be known, but I never thought I could get away with that.